everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. Today I'm painting a roaming monster from Massive Darkness, Cun-Ha. Don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's the best that I've got. So I'm going to start off with a quick show of a graph. I hope you like graphs as much as I do. And this is the number of subscribers. Blue's August, so that's this month, and orange is what we were previously hitting in July. As you can see, there's a lot of new subscribers, so thank you all for subscribing to us. I don't know if you know, I didn't know this before, but the more subscribers you get, the more likes you get, and the more comments you get, and the higher up in the sort of the YouTube searches you become. So it really helps the channel sort of grow the more of those things you have. If you are enjoying the videos, please do click the subscribe button below if you haven't already. And there's a new video every Friday if you've not noticed, so you'll be able to get to that more easily. Anyway, let's get on with some painting. As always, I'll start by showing you the paints that I'll use during this tutorial. You can also find them in the description below in a written format. So let's start by priming the model in white, just plain matte white here. Personally didn't love how this sculpt looks at the beginning. I'm not a massive mummy fan and his big chin's a bit weird, but let's see how I feel by the end. So the first colour we're going to base is the Wolf Grey. This is a sort of, well, grey blue, similar to the Somber Grey from Vallejo. This is by the Army Paint, it's part of the Zombicide set. So I'm going to be painting his skirt here. I'm using the Regiment brush by the Army Painter. I'm getting all of the front bit and all around the back as well. Just being careful around his legs because the matte white is going to be the base colour of his bandages. Using Toxic Boils, a pink by the Army Painter here, and that's for the inside of his mouth and his tongue. Dwarf Skin by Vallejo, and this is for his skin, so that's his hands and the bit of the feet, so really just his toes there sticking out of the bandages, and his hands and his wrists, so front and back there. Bright Gold by the Army Painter is going to be the gold that I use, and this is for the hilt of his sword and the sort of crotch piece that he has, this big metal crotch medallion. I don't know what that is, some sort of Egyptian dress thing. Snazzy anyway, it gives some colour to the model, so yep, get that nice and gold. We're going to be using cold grey, and this is for the armour on his shoulders. That's sort of look like a satin steel to me, so I'm going to paint it this dark cold grey to begin with, and hopefully you'll see where I'm going with this as we move through the model. Next is silver. This is by Vallejo, and this is to do some of the handle of his sword as well as the actual blade of his sword. It's quite like a glassy silver effect on the card, so I'm using the sparkly silver. I'm also going to highlight up already his shoulder pads, and this is using the silver along all of the raised parts of it to try and give it that metallic look, but still keeping it this trying to go for this satin, almost plate mail maybe. I don't know. Look on the card. It looks different to normal metallics to me, so that's what I've gone with. I'm going to use a deep shader using the Regiment brush here, and I'm just going to apply it to the whole model. This is a dark brown, probably their deep shader. I think they might also call it in different sets. It's a dark brown shader, and I'm just generously applying it everywhere, making sure it gets in between all of the bandages. That's going to create will really make the bandages stand out at this point. So once you've covered the whole model, just leave that to dry for a few minutes, and then you can come back and boom, already looking so much better. I'm already starting to enjoy this model. I really think he's looking nice. He's looking like a mummy now. He's looking quite aged without any highlighting. So sometimes I just think of just finishing there and not highlighting up the models. It saves a lot of time, and it looks, I'd say it's a good 70% done at that point. So that's just my take on it. So I'm going to be using Brainmatter Beige, which is the Army Painter's white, and I'm going to be highlighting using a detail brush all of the extremities of his bandages, so his sort of kneecaps, his thighs, his chin there, his chest, down the middle of his chest. I'm going to do up the middle of his arms as well, and anywhere where the light would be hitting the very most, so basically down the front of the model and all of the sort of sticky out bits. And then I'm going to use my dry brush and apply the smallest amount of paint I can, so I really scraped off all of the paint until nothing was coming off anymore, and I just dry brushed over the whole of his bandages, which sort of just blended that highlight in and made the bandages look really good. That was just doing the highlight with Toxic Boils there, and that was for his tongue and his mouth. This paint I've missed off of the picture at the beginning, so you can find this in the description below. This is the electric blue. It's the brightest blue I've got from Vallejo, and that was for his eyeballs there. I'm going to be using the wolf grey to highlight back up his little dress, his skirt, and I'm going to be using the regiment brush here to get quite a thick sort of lines and layers down all of the most raised parts of his skirt, and this is because I'm going to use another highlight afterwards to catch the very edges. So I'm just painting in back some of that colour in the most raised bits. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be mixing wolf grey with white here and make a lighter version of the colour, and I'm down to the detail brush now, just catching the very edges of his dress or skirt, you know, whichever. I think it was a dress. It probably got ripped in half and he's just got the skirt bit left, you know. That's just a bit of backstory for him. Bit of free information with these videos. Maybe I'll do that every week for you. So, yep, detail brush, catch all of these riffles in his skirt and get around the outside of it, the edges along the bottom, down the sides. So I'm going to be using the dwarf skin to highlight back up his flesh. So I'm still with a detail brush here by the army painter, and I'm catching all of his fingers, basically all the raised parts of his fingers, leaving the shader in between his fingers and everywhere you'd expect darkness to fall. And both hands there, you can see just being extra careful around the bottom of his hand. There's a lot of stuff in the way. I'm going to do the same with his feet, highlighting up each of his toes. Hopefully you can see that there. And then going to be mixing dwarf skin with white, about 50-50, just to make a lighter version. And this is now just to catch the very tips of everything, his fingernails and his knuckles on each of his hands, same on his toes, each of his knuckles and his nails there. I'm going to be using bright gold to highlight up the bright gold again, so just painting in the edges of his hilt and the centerpiece there, as well as along the top of his belt. Detail brush again. These roaming monsters, the model's pretty big, so same as the Iron Golem, not needed to go down to the insane detail brush. The detail brush is small enough, just have to be extra careful, make sure you've got a nice sharp point at all times when you're doing the small bits. I'm even going to do these teeny tiny bits along here, being very, very careful, but as you can see I'm not missing. It's a fairly easy model to paint. I'm going to be using silver to highlight up the silver, and this is for the tip of his sword and along the bottom. I think that's where the light would hit, as well as the raised bit throughout the middle of it. I'm going to do that on both sides, as well as I'm catching down the edge of the sword as well, sort of to make it as 3D as I can. I'm just going to retouch up those shoulder pads, bring the silver back through, just to make them look nice and metallic. But that sort of, as I've mentioned twice now, so third time, that sort of dull satiny metal, and I think that looks fairly accurate to his card. Best I could do. If anyone's got any tips on that, please do comment below. That's a metal effect I come across quite a lot, and I'm not really sure how to go about doing it myself yet. So I'm going to stick him to my handy model holder. As always, if you haven't got one, the description's in the link below. The link is in the description below, and I've done a review on those as well, which you can find on my channel. And as with the other roaming monsters, at the moment I'm just painting the base is black. It's nice and quick and easy, just while I work out exactly what I may or may not want to do. Stop the clock. There we go, completely finished the model, 57 minutes start to end. Another fast one, especially for the size of the model. Really enjoying painting these roaming models at the moment. I don't know if it's because they're big and they're quick, or just because I'm doing a nice prime that's saving me a lot of time. So there's Cun-Ha completely finished. As I said at the beginning, I didn't really love the model, but it grew on me, and I think by the end I really like how that's come out, and it looks great on the board. It's quite daunting when he spawns, I can tell you that. So as I mentioned, if you are enjoying these tutorials, please do subscribe, help the channel grow, and I'll see you next Friday. Thanks for watching.